Hi, we're back here from AmericanElgin.com. Today we're going to be talking about a very interesting pair of watches in the 27 and 30 jewel Elgin and Lord Elgin lineup of self-winding watches, American made. They're made between about 1959 and 1963. These models are, they both share case reference 2434. So the first one is the 27 jewel Elgin version. You can see it's 27 jewels, and it has a design which is actually almost identical to the 30 jewel Lord Elgin version. So the only difference is the jewel count. The movement is slightly different, although it's closely related. Lord Elgin was the sort of the top brand for the Elgin National Watch Company, and Elgin itself was the standard brand, although they also sold high-end watches. And these share the exact same case number, which is rather unusual. Typically, the Lord Elgins had different types of cases, but these are the exact same cases. You can see they're made by it's case reference 2434, made by Queen's Watch Case Company out of New York. Now, what makes these watches very interesting is that a typical watch, and I'm going to show you an example. A typical watch has a bezel that goes around. Now this is a different Lord Elgin watch from the 30 jewel series, which we'll talk about this one in another video. But this one has a metal ring. You can see it goes all the way around the outside of the watch, and that's called the bezel. And that purpose is to hold the crystal in place. And that's virtually all the watches made in this time period, including pretty much all of the Lord Elgins and Elgins had this same kind of design. It's still widely used today. Now, at first glance, you might say, oh, well, this watch has a bezel too. Well, actually, no, that's just a design feature on the dial. You can see from a side angle profile, the watch crystal goes all the way to the end of the watch. And I'll compare that with the other Lord Elgin with the bezel. You can see it's metal here on the side, and wrapping around it actually holds it. You can see the angle here. The same is true for the 27 jewel Elgin version. It's exactly the same. You can see the crystal goes all the way to the end of the watch, and it's held together with adhesive, and it's a bit complex how it's held together, but it holds together. One of the downsides of collecting these watches, and these are really fantastic and really beautiful and impressive. The technology is very cool behind them, but you have to be a little bit wary that the crystal is not chipped, because of course this crystal is at the very edge of the watch, unlike the bezel normally. Now, one design difference between these two, which you might notice, is under the Lord Elgin name, there's the DuraBalance logo, and for some reason we don't see that on the regular Elgin, even though it should have that. And this might be a typo, because all the regular 27 jewel Elgins do have the same logo under them. So for some reason they did not include it here. I don't know why. Of course, you can see at the bottom of the dial, American made on both of these. It's exactly the same. The only difference really, other than a bit of difference in the dial, the only difference really is the movement inside. One has the so-called 761 movement. That's caliber 761, and that is the 27 jewel Elgin, and that is again designed and made in USA. And the Lord Elgin has the 30 jewel version of that caliber, which is the 760 caliber. Again, these watches had the only American designed and made full rotor automatic movements ever made, these two series of Elgin watches. Full rotor just means there is if you were to open up the watch, you would see there's a watch movement in the back with all the gears and everything else. And sitting on top of it, or actually below it, is a rotor, a pendulum, that spins in a 360-degree rotation when you walk around to wind the watch. So you don't need to wind it by hand or anything like that. It is self-winding. Now, it is unusual, as I mentioned, to have two of the exact same cases used here. And this also sort of goes to the question of how do we categorize this watch? So Elgin in the late 1950s introduced this Horizon look series of watches, and this is just one example actually and this is the only example that was used with the 2730 jewel Elgins, is these particular watches. But there are other versions of the Lord Elgin that use similar Horizon look crystals, which are And they're all typically also very high-end watches. It's very, very attractive, very interesting technology they came up with. Some collectors refer to these specific watches as the Model G. So in general, this line of watches, this 2730 jewel self-winding set of watches, what was called the thin, or sometimes called the thin line series of watches. And many of them, but not all, had different letter names, like thin Model A, thin B, thin C, and so on. A number of collectors have referred to this as the G model, thin G. I've researched the archives of Elgin advertising and other materials. I have not found any evidence that this was called the G model. So I've, on the AmericanElgin.com website, we simply categorize this as, with its case reference number 2434. There is a version, there is a Lord Elgin thin Model G. I'm sorry, yeah, there is a thin Model G for Elgin, but it is a different, uses a completely different case, looks nothing like this. So it could be the case, it could be that this is also a G model that uses a completely different case, although it seems unlikely. It's possible, but the jury's still out. There's really no evidence of that yet. Now I'll show you a bit of advertising for these watches. You can see that they advertised these and they actually had the exact same price and advertised here. So these are some ads for the 30 jewel self-winding. You can see how they don't mention any specific model number here. They just say Elgin 30 jewel self-winding shockproof. You can see this is, of course, the same watch design here, Lord Elgin 30 jewels. Here a little bit to the right, we have another ad that's very similar. Obviously not the ladies' watch here, or the half ladies' watch, but this is the same one. And if we rotate the watch, you'll see this is the exact same watch. And as we talked about before, this, interestingly, for some reason, they added a dial design with the gold kind of around the ring of it that makes it look like it has a bezel. So this very gold part around the outside, but it has, actually is just part of the dial. It's just the decoration on the dial. So it's kind of an interesting look. I don't know why they did that with a Horizon crystal, but it does actually work really well. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we'll see that Elgin mentions this is case number 2434, yellow only. That means yellow gold only. And it's a 30 jewel. And it was $79.50. This actually, the same price was used for the 27 jewel version. And I will show you in a moment one of the very few advertisements for the 27 jewel version of this watch. And this is an interesting one because you could see that the price is the same. The price is the same, $79.50, but it's actually came in an ad where they offered you basically a trade-in for your old watch up to $30, so you'd only pay $49.50. But we can see this is the 27 jewel version. This is the exact same watch here. And again, they don't mention this as being thin Model G or anything of the sort. They don't even mention the words thin or thin line. So whether we should categorize this as a G model or thin line or as part of the broader Horizon series of watches, the Horizon Look series, that's kind of debatable. Maybe has a little bit of something to do with more than one of those categories. But in any event, these are very attractive watches. They have a very decent case size, 32.5 millimeters, which is very nice size for that time period. And really, they do have this phenomenal look of this Horizon Look crystal is just very cool to look at, and it's very impressive. This is again one of the more unique pieces of this lineup of the 27 and 30 jewel automatics, which, as we talked about in prior videos, these run on the inside of the watch, the movement is a chronometer quality movement. So this is a very extremely precise watch. If you keep it properly serviced, it will run to within just a couple seconds a day of deviation. It is a very precise watch. And again, this line of watches, the only American designed and made full rotor automatics ever. So these are really a very high-end, top-end watch, and this is a very unique version of that series. If you'd like any more information on these watches, please check out AmericanElgin.com, where we have information on these and all of the other ones that we have information for. Thank you.